Good morning, Breakfast Club family. This is Mark Stevens with your host, Joe Shute. Welcome to the Breakfast Club. It's been a week since we talked to you. Got a lot of great information for you today, so we're going to get right in it because we want to be able to cover everything. So let's get ready for this Breakfast Club ride. Good morning, Joe. How are you?
Good morning, Mark. Fantastic and amazing. How about you?
I am phenomenal. Ready to hear this great information.
Okay, so a couple of updates. There is something that's coming to the Carrot Bar people soon. So can't elaborate on. I know that's going to be within days, if not already today. So just when that happens, we'll kind of announce it. It has to do with marketing, so that's pretty cool. And number two, talk to Cheryl Ann, who's going to be with us, I believe, next week. So I want to put that on your calendar so that Cheryl Ann Gober, the U.S. leader here in Carrot Bars, will be with us. So mark that, and we'll get a notice out to you. But you should be getting a notice every Tuesday. Let me quickly tell you how that works. You registered for the Breakfast Club. Whenever that was, you've registered to be notified every week. So whether you get a notice from me or not, I know you get that extra one that I send with the graphics and so on it and our pictures on it, reminding you and maybe giving you the topic. The notice that you get from the system, the Webinar Jam system, sends you a notice an hour ahead of time, 15 minutes ahead of time. And as we have the ability when the webinar starts to actually click a button and send it to everybody that hasn't arrived yet. We generally do that every week. So just want you to know that's how that system works. And in the event that you don't want that notice every single week like that from the system, which we will be talking about today, you can't just send me an email. You have to use the system to do it because it'll tell you right in there how to disengage. We get very, very few people that do that. So if you do, you're removed from that system. You're removed from my system, which is I keep a record on a spreadsheet with everyone. And then that's where I send my notices from. It's the same list in addition to other personal lists that I have. And that's how that's done. So wanted to bring you up to date with that. So let's get started. I got a couple things to cover here. We talked last week. We had a phenomenal response last week, Mark, for the director call. After our call, we had over 200 people go ahead and view this overall. Over a couple hundred people that came and said, hey, what's that director call webinar all about? And they went and listened to the replay. Some came live. And obviously it's a trigger point. It's a point of interest for people because very few companies and very few people teach a system on a director call, and there is a system to it. So people are interested because I think, Mark, they don't get the education that they need because they get frustrated when they three-way somebody into a director or an upline. You know, many people, as you know, talk to us and tell us that, you know, they were on for an hour, 40 minutes, 50 minutes. They did this, this, and this, and the person's not even coming in. So it's important that you forget about your upline and, if somebody's doing that, it's just because they don't know. They don't mean anything by it. They just don't know. They don't realize because they've been wrongly taught all these years that you just put them on and they go ahead and explain everything. And they talk about the company, the comp plan, and it sounds like to me, Mark, my experience is when I have three-wayed people in over the years in many companies, some companies, the people doing that three-way felt as though it was necessary for them to convince the person that this was going to be a great opportunity, that our company's the best, our comp plan's the best, our people are the best, you couldn't be with anybody better. All that language sounds like an enticement to me. And I think that people realize that, but they don't know what to do with it. So that's why, we've been teaching this for, 18 years. There's a communication class that teaches this kind of stuff. Teaches you how to do the initial call, how to do the director call. So it's important that you learn how to be the director so that you can help build your team. So here's some questions I have. Here's the first one. You should probably write this down. Well, not probably. You should write this down. What do you need to do to be successful? What do you need to do to be successful? What do you need? So let's start with this. Number one, you don't have to answer that now. I'm going to answer this for you. But if you want to add something to it, that's fine. If you want to add the 6 things that really you need to accomplish, you need to know, you need to perfect, give it a shot. Write them down. There's 6 of them. In the meantime, I'll give them to you. First of all, it's logical. We are in the business of talking to people. We need other people to be successful. That is the very first thing you have to start with in this industry. No one is going to register with this company and not talk to anyone and be successful. You can't just sell your product to your friends and neighbors and make a nice income. You'll make some income. You'll make a little bit of money. But you will not get to where you want to go until you realize that you need other people to be successful. That's number one. Little different than in a storefront business. You do need other people there, but you can hire and fire all you want. Here, you can't do that. All you're doing is hoping the people that you find are going to be the ones that want to be successful and do what it takes to be successful. So the first thing we need to do is realize we need other people to be successful. Number 2, you have to find these people. They're not going to come knocking at your door. They don't walk by your drugstore or your pizza shop. You have to go find them. So that's number 2. And you use any means possible to find them. How do you find them? Any way you can, you find them. However, there are principles. There are systems, there are patterns of behavior, but you have to find those people by any means possible. That's number 2. Now, this is the key thing to me, Mark, as you know, for you and should be for everybody. You have to know how to talk to these people. That's number 3. No, one thing to find them, but you have to know how to talk to these people. And in my experience, most people don't know how to do that. They do it, but they say all kinds of things. We've been through this before. We go through this in the class, because in the class, we teach you how to talk to these people. You have to know how to talk to these people. That's number 3. Now, number 4, you need someone else who knows how to talk to people as well. In other words, an upline or a director. Number 5, you need a pattern of behavior or a system for these people to follow. Once you've brought the people you're looking for in. Now, let me explain this to you. When I say a pattern of behavior, a system, you have to have a plan for them to come in. Without a plan, how do you expect them to know what to do? And I don't care what company that you join. I don't care what the name of the company is. You need these things to get started. Those people that you bring in have to know there's a system or they're not staying. You have to know how to get them started, number 1. Within that number 5, it's getting started with them. How do you get them started? How do you locate others? We have to provide that system for them. We have to provide that system. Now, look, you go through any company, go through Karatbars, and you will find people with different patterns of behavior, different types of systems. I know there are some good people in here who have systems. Lloyd is one of them. Dan is another. They have a plan to go find those people. They have a plan to find them. In other words, a pattern that they use to find them. We're going to touch on that in a minute. You have to create that environment. We need to create the environment. Here's the environment. You locate, you train, and you develop. What we do is locate, train, and develop people to be successful in the home business. Those three things are the pattern. Locate, train, develop them. Now, the conclusion to that, number 6, is if you wrap those 5 up, you need to duplicate. But duplicate what? Everybody knows you have to duplicate. But let's think about what duplication really means. If you don't have a real system, how can you duplicate? People don't duplicate. Systems duplicate. Here's what you need to write down. It is one of the key things that I learned from Bob Safford many, many years ago, 20 years ago, what it is that you need. If you can wrap this all up, here's what it is. You need a system whereby recruiting never stops. You can't just expect people to go do something and hope they do it. You need a system whereby recruiting never stops. My suggestion is that you don't sit and try to create one. You follow one that's successful. We believe that our system is successful. Now, when I say our system, I mean here at AdTech Worldwide, based on all the education that we've gotten over the years. Most of it is someone else's pattern of behavior, someone else's system. But adding little parts, a little bit more of this, a little less of that, till we've refined it to having a system whereby that recruiting never stops. That means if you stop, it doesn't stop. It, meaning the recruiting. Now, there's a handful of people in this company that are in that position, and you can name them. You know who I'm talking about. Dan, Charlene, Tammy, Joe, all these people, Lloyd, they have a system whereby their recruiting will never stop. Why? They stayed with the plan and the pattern in the beginning. It's what happens in the beginning. But then you come into the time where the beginning is over. This is not the beginning of the company. It's the beginning of you. But you have to decide what is that system whereby that recruiting never stops. Let's take a look at a car wash. It's a perfect example of a system. In the old days, I remember, Mark, when I was a teenager, that my buddy worked for a local car wash that was packed all the time. You pulled your car up to that car wash, and there were 20 people working there. There were 2 kids vacuuming. There were other ones with brooms getting your tires, washing the headlights. And they washed your car by hand all the way through until what became available to the industry was automatic car washes, where you pulled up, you had one guy outside, washed your tires with a broom, sprayed some stuff on, pushed a button, and your car went through. It didn't matter what kind of car went through there. It could have been a Volkswagen to a Rolls Royce. It didn't matter. The system did exactly the same thing over and over and over again, so that everybody got the same treatment. They had the same pattern of behavior. The cars came out identical every single time. Always does the same. Dan doesn't have to recruit anymore. He does, but he doesn't have to. Why? Because the system's in place. The cars are going through the car wash, whether he pushes the button or not. Until you realize that you have to be part of a system whereby recruiting never stops, you're not going to make it here. Honestly, you're not. You're never going to get to the place where everything is flowing and you can take the vacations and sit back and relax a little bit after you've spent that time building. If you don't get to be part of a system, not going to make it. You're going to spend another year wishing that you had started and figured that out. Okay, so step one. We know what we have now there, but what is it? Finding others, step one, because that's it. Registration, you're in, you do your homework, you study, you want to learn about gold, you do that all in your spare time. That's not work time. Work time is finding others, right? So it starts with you. So if you are with, let's say, Lloyd has a pattern. I know what he does. I know how he goes after people. What system does he use? I know if you're with Mark, I know what system Mark uses. And two of them are different. One uses one particular funnel to put people through. One of them uses another. So the first thing you have to understand is how. How do I find others? You have to make that decision. This is a personal decision. Here's what option one. You can call all the people you know. Because look, there are only two types of people that you can actually find. People you know and people you don't know. They're the only two people you have to go after. The only two people that exist in our industry. People you know and people you don't know. And you have to find them any way you can. Now, you can call everybody you know. Now, let's just say we're talking family and friends. That's a different people you know than people in the industry that you know. Two types of different conversations, actually. Two different conversations. People that you know. Let's just say it was people you know from your family and friends. Well, I say that those people are candidates to be your customers. Probably not going to come work with you. Your personal family and friends and close friends. They're probably not going to do that. Very few people have that happen. But they're the people you know. So there's a pattern. What do you do with the people you know? Certain pattern. We teach that. We use a website called Friends and Family. Send it to them. Let them know we're in business. And we keep up with them to let them know and see if they, maybe they'll be part of the system that buys gold from us on a regular basis. You're only going to get a handful of them. Average person in this industry, Mark, has about 2 or 3 customers. The whole industry, 2 or 3 customers, just customers. Average person. So you can't build an income from that. But you should notify your friends, and that's part of it. How about the people you don't know? This is the biggest pool of people you don't know. That's the biggest pool to pull from. That's the pond you want to be in most of the time. And don't try to interest those people in anything. Find the interested people. That's the key. Find the interested one. How do you do it? Well, one, you can do what a lot of people do. Send emails. Now, emails, as history is showing, is that response is slowing down. And there's many reasons for that. Won't go into it today. But it's happening. People use an email system. Email hundreds or thousands of people every day to find that one person. You can use ads. You can use the radio. Of course, that's expensive, covers a wide area, and probably be a waste of money in our industry. You can use voice broadcasting. That's what Lloyd does. You can maximize your time and your efforts by doing that. Why? Because the system, that particular system, does all the work for you and finds the interested party for you to talk to. After you find that interested party, we go back to the basics. You have to talk to them. What do you have to say? So the first part of this is about what do you say to that new person? Let's go back to the car wash theory, because that's where you are. You got the car there. They've pulled into your parking lot. Are you going to put 20 kids on the car and find some kid who's having a bad day, who didn't wash the windshield properly? Or are you going to put him through an automatic system that everybody does the same thing? I see the biggest fault, Mark, in this industry is that everybody's saying something different on the phone. The key to this thing is to find the interested party. What are they interested in? Gold? Facial products? Nutrition? What you're looking for are people who really want to have a successful business from home. That's who you're looking for. Now, we happen to have the best product on the planet. Let me tell you why. I can say that comfortably. After 22 years in this industry, this is the first company I have been with here at Karatbars that can say this. Our product is not consumable. In other words, we don't eat it. We don't consume it on a daily basis and have to have a new order at the end of the month. When you have a company like that, nothing wrong with that. In fact, it's great to have a consumable product so people do reorder. That was always the theory. But with Karatbars, there's no expense. An initial expense to buy a package if you want to, be in an affiliate and you want to get paid. And in fact, there's a way around that as well. But let's just look at the logic of this. When you purchase nutritional products, etc., that is an expense of your business. That's part of the cost of your business. You buy it and you consume it, or you sell it, or you store it. Either way, you have to pay every single month for a product to be shipped to you. And it becomes an expense of your business. If you're making more money than those expenses, you are in the black. In Karatbars, when you buy the product, you have just acquired an asset. The money has not left you. It's in a different form. It is not an expense of your business. If you're purchasing on a regular basis or purchasing at all you've done is add it to your assets. One that's going to increase. So there's no expense to purchasing. And in fact, if you say, well, 3 weeks later, you want to have the cash back, you can go in and get it. Minus some fees, but you're still going to get it. So there's the difference between the two. So you're not looking for people who want to buy gold. You're looking for people who want to have a successful business. And one of the biggest selling points of our business is you're always purchasing an asset. It's never an expense. So it doesn't really cost you any money, just as we say, exchanging cash for gold. Now that we have those things down, how you do it, you have to make that decision on how am I going to go find those people. You have to make that decision. Nobody can do it for you. You may not be comfortable picking up the phone, but if you, and talking to somebody cold, you just pick up with a phone number and call them. You may not be good at that. If you go through our class, you will be good at it. If you practice it and you put it into place. But you still have to find those people. But when you find them, let's say you decide you're going to send emails or you're going to do a voice broadcast. If you did that, you still have to pick up that phone and you have to have dialogue. Why would anybody want to have a pattern like that and have everybody have different dialogue? What you have to do in the beginning is get over the fact that the other person, the prospect on the other line, wants information and you have to stop giving it to them. You have to get over the desire or the impulse to say, oh, let me say this. And it's about this. You have to get over that. There's a pattern of behavior that teaches you, that stops you from doing that. If you're in the class, you'll know that. Everybody goes through the class, understands how to stop doing that. Telling them something, but stop the pattern of telling and telling and telling, hoping you're convincing them to come with you. And I'll tell you how you know that they're not listening to you is they don't show up for their appointment, for their schedule, wherever you scheduled them to, they don't show up. Then you can blame you because you said too much or you didn't have the right party. Most of the time, it's because you didn't handle that person properly. If they responded to something, we have an interested party. What happens to them at that point is our responsibility. So what if you had, like a car wash, an entire pattern of behavior when you called them, everybody said the same thing? I listened to an audio over the weekend of someone teaching stuff like this and teaching the dialogue. I was absolutely blown away by what they're teaching people to say after they found the interested party. Mind-boggling to me. When I say mind-boggling, it's horrible. And it's being taught out there through videos, audios. Listen to what I say to people. And when you listen, you go, how could he say that? You have to learn that pattern. In the class, you learn that. You have to learn. Here's what you really have to learn. You have to learn to find a person who's interested in a career change for the right money, right? Or maybe part-time for the right money. So wouldn't it be logical to ask them that question? So if somebody responded to your email, to your campaign, they looked at some website, wouldn't it make sense when you called them, they notified you? There are systems that tell you that they looked at the system, so you call them. Bob, the reason it's Joe Shoup, the reason I called you, that's what has to happen. You have to follow a pattern. Here's the pattern. Introduction. This is Joe Shoup giving you a quick call from Arizona. How are you? The reason I called, what I would like you to do, set an appointment and tie it down. There's the 5 points. You have to follow that pattern behavior. That's the car through the car wash. And in between, there's going to be interruptions. So you have to learn how to deal with them when they want to know more about your company and so on and so forth. You have to learn how to deal with all that. Again, and I can't do that in 20 minutes here. Now, let's assume you get all the way through. Let's just take that through, right? Introduction, reason I called, what I would like you to do. What does that mean? Well, first of all, let's go back to the reason. The reason I called you is you filled out some information on my website. I want to speak to you about managing a business from home with my company. I want to give you a little bit more information. Is this a good time, or do we need to reschedule for a time that's more convenient for both of us? That's the kind of dialogue you need. But what if everybody did that? What if everybody made the phone call and made the right introduction first? What if everybody said the reason I called was the same reason? What if everybody had the same reason that they called? They should. You're either on my website or you're calling cold, one of the two. You responded to something, voice broadcast or a website or something. Or you call them cold, a little bit different. The reason you called then is, a little bit different than they already saw something. They didn't see anything yet. But what if everybody knew that? And every phone call, what if you had 100 people today that you knew that all these people were making phone calls today and they were finding the interested party by introducing themselves, telling them the reason they called, and then telling them what they wanted them to do? What is it that they want them to do? There are two options here. One is if you called cold without any information yet, without a voice broadcast, without an email, then you have to send them information. That's what you would want them to do, is look at something. If they've already looked, you can't do that. If they've already looked, your next step is that you want them to go to meet a director. It's the only other option you have. Now, Mark likes to meet people face to face. There's another way to do it. Talking to people in the public and talking to people. At that point, Mark would have to direct them to a piece of information. A website. That's what he does. That's how he handles his end. He loves talking face-to-face. Personally, so do I. Except I don't get out. But I like that one-on-one. I like to sit there and say, here's what I'd like you to do. Now, I've watched people in person. I've watched them sit there with meeting that person on the street and blab the whole thing, and you can see the other person's not even interested. I've seen them do it. And sit there and try to tell the story while they're at a counter with the cashier. Not the way to do it. Learn that in the class. But you got to learn. You got to give them something. They've already seen it, or you need for them to see. So that's what you want them to do. That's the third step to that phone call. Now, you always have to make an appointment. If you don't make an appointment, you should never be talking to that person. If that person refuses to make an appointment, I would never send them the information. They have to do. We're looking for people who want to follow, right? And if they're not going to make an appointment, then you don't do it. because this is how we work. I send you the information, we get back together again, and then we'll see if we're on the same page. So let's set a time that's best for both of us. Was Wednesday at 4 good, or would 4:30 be better? A pattern to setting an appointment, same thing. There's a system to setting an appointment. Most people don't know how to do it. You know what they say? Well, what time would be good for you? And then the person goes, well, I don't really, or I don't know, Wednesdays are good. Okay, well, I'll just change my schedule all around for you, and I'll just meet you whenever you want. That's not business. It sounds like they're trying to get away from you, and you're letting them. You're a business person who says, Frank, this is how I work. I have an appointment ready here. I have an appointment available here on Wednesday at 4:30. Or would 5 o'clock be better? It's either this or it's that. Again, learning this stuff in the class. That's how you get to that. So if you're sending them the information, you have to set an appointment and get them back. But if they've already gotten it, you've got to get them over to a director. How do you get them there? We covered this part last week. But you have to have an effective director on the other end that knows what they're doing. And is it the same pattern you want them to have? If it's not, then don't use that person. Find somebody who knows how to get on and off that phone call in the next 5 to 7 minutes. We say 3 to 5, but probably takes 5 to 7 logically or normally. And you have to learn how to introduce the director. There's a pattern, once again, a system to it. The whole thing is a set of systems. We covered last week what that dialogue is. And then we introduce the director and say, this is Frank. Frank has looked at this. He's seen that. I think we have a match. It looks like it. And I thought you might have some questions for Frank. That's how you tell the director what has happened to this person. And the director now has complete control because he's going to do a real interview. An interview for this industry, a little different than face-to-face in an IBM office. It's a little different. And then this director has to know what to do. He has to know his function. He has to know the system. The system is, I'm going to ask you some questions. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about our company, and I'm going to recommend that you get registered with our company, and I'm going to let them know that we're going to lock arms for a period of time and see if we're really right for each other. We don't know that at that point. We really don't know. I know not only Mark, but many people can tell you that you've brought a person to the table who says they're going to, and they never do. They don't show up for Breakfast Club. They don't show up for the opportunity meetings. They don't show up for trainings. And we thought they would. See, that's why you have to tell them, look, there's no pressure here. But if we can show you, or you can be taught with a little training and coaching and a lot of support, can you see yourself doing what it takes to be successful here with our company? That's a question that has to be answered prior to answering their questions. I'm not trying to convince them of anything. They can go get convinced by going to websites, videos, audios, anything they want, and go find out all about Karatbars. Why do I have to sit there and do that? It'd be like going to an interview at IBM and the guy telling you all about IBM from the beginning and when they started and how it's going to be wonderful and all the computers and fax machines and everything they manufacture. Why would you do that? What's important is to IBM is this: can this person do what it takes to have that department and be part of that department that's successful? Help it be successful. Can you be on that team? And once you ask that question with a little coaching and training and a lot of support, can you see yourself doing what it takes to be successful here with our company here at Karatbars? Yes, I really can. Great. Now, we've just told them they're going to get little training, little coaching, but a lot of support. And you, not the director, but you who've introduced it to the director are responsible for that support. You're the one that called them. You're the one that said, I got the best thing in sliced bread. So it's your job to support them. How do you do that? You don't get on the phone every day and get to know their family. That's not support. And let me mention that prior to registration, this is not about building a relationship. Now, if you were out on the street and you were talking to business owners, you probably can build a relationship face to face like that. They get to see who you are. They trust you. They see you nicely dressed. You build some rapport there. You don't just walk in the door and say, "Would you did? Let's set an appointment." You go in and you talk and you have time to sit there with them, because the important part is that you get their attention. But on a phone call, you're not supposed to build a relationship before it all starts. I know a lot of people teach you that. Why would you? I don't want anybody calling my house and wanting to be so nice to me. And I know the reason. They want me to look at what they have. They're trying to be so nice to me so that I'll go look. What kind of relationship is that? I just want you to be honest with me. Tell me what you want. I'll go look at it. And if we decide to lock arms together, hey, we can start building a relationship. And that's when you give them the support and you show them that you care. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, right? That's not the beginning of it, though. The beginning is finding the interested party. The second part of it is registering and getting them in the system. And the system is what we just talked about. With a little more, getting them to training, getting them, when I say training, getting them to their training calls here in this company. There are training videos teaching them how to do the whole thing. In our system, in our back office of Tools Rock, we have an entire program that shows step by step, all the way down. So the director has to know this. The director can't get on and find out, how's your family? Where do you live? I live there too. I'm really having a lot of fun, and you're going to be, and everything's going to be great. That's not the attitude I want as a director. I want that person to find out. I've found out that it's possible we have a match. I want the director to find out if we have a match as well. I want him to ask questions. I want him to say in the beginning, what is it that Joe said that caused us to get together? In other words, what do you know about our company so far? What is it that you saw? Tell me what you can tell me about what you know. And then the director knows, not just what I told them maybe prior to a call, but to that three-way, but he gets to find out. And gets to get that person to talk. And then find out a little bit about them, what they do, how long they've been doing it, and where they see themselves. And find, hey, maybe we do have a match. So here's more about our company. The question, if we training, support, and so on. And then, Frank, do you have any questions for me? Chances are you'll have a few questions, but not one that requires another 20 minutes of dialogue. Now, some people go down that road, and sometimes that's okay. I say to you that if you're going to develop a system or be part of a system, then you need to do the same thing all the way through. If somebody says, what does your company do? What do you do? Explain comp plans? You explain, Stuttgart and how the company started? No, it's very simple what our company does. We've explained this in the last one. The name of the company, here's the pattern. Once again, the system. This is the pattern. The name of the company, how long they've been around, what is it they do, and what do we do? Because what the company does and what we do are totally different. Totally different. Company's not out there finding the interested party. They've already found the interested parties to go find the interested parties. They do something different at the home office than we do. It's very clear that that's what happens. It's true in every company. So that's what happens. Getting them to that director, finding that person who knows how to do that, and then saying, fine, Joe, I want you to get Frank registered. You answered Frank's questions, a couple of them. He may have a few. And if he says to me, Joe, can you explain the comp plan? Guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to direct him to a video. I am not explaining a comp plan in the next 20 minutes when the video did it. Why did you think they made the videos? Pick out the best one you think works for you. There's plenty of comp plan videos out there. I listened to one yesterday that was pretty darn good. I'm not sure who did it. It's a woman. Could have been Tammy. I don't know, but it was a really, really good explanation. If you want to spend 20 minutes understanding the comp plan, great. Here's what I'd like you to do. Frank, I can tell you this. In order to get paid here, we get paid in direct proportion to the effort we put forth. We have a video that explains all the intricate details. So what I want you to do is take a look at that after you register, and you'll see that. And if you have any questions, get back to me. That's when you get back to talking 15 minutes with him about comp plans, to explain maybe some little parts he doesn't understand. There's a video on what this company, the background of the company, and all the executives. Why do I have to go through all that? I'll tell them a little bit, then I'm going to direct them to training. Sure, you learn that in training, Frank. See, when you learn the system, the pattern of behavior that you're supposed to have, and you can duplicate that. You can have people follow the same thing, just like the car wash. Then you'll get duplication. If you don't do that, you're never going to get duplication. What would they duplicate? You're doing something different than your upline, then they're doing something different than you, and something different. How can that work? That's just why car washes really didn't work in the early days. They worked somewhat, but when automation happened, everybody got the same thing, and they were assured of their success, because everybody that came through got satisfied because it did exactly the same thing. Now, I know there's people that want to tell you that you just wing this and you just go ahead and, it'll all happen. Well, 97% of the people in this industry don't make the money they want to make, or any at all. So how did that pattern work for you? That didn't work. It hasn't worked. It's never going to work. It'll work for those who early on or get in and go to work themselves and teach people how to do what we're talking about right now. That'll work. But to just wing it and throw it out there and see what sticks, it doesn't work. I'll tell you what works. I'll tell you what sticks. 97% will also fail in that system. So it's time for a change. If that's you, if does any of this make sense to you, then you have to find out what these systems and patterns are. You really have to write them down. You have to have a CCMP, a clear, concise mental picture of what you want to attain. And that includes what system are you going to use, what phone calls, how are you going to do it, how are you going to say it, who's the director you're going to find, what videos you're going to tell them to see when they want comp plan stuff. So with that, I hope you get that car washes, automated car washes work. The other ones work, but they generally close down. Kids doing afternoon car washes for the high school, they're fun. But I promise you, if you want the best professional cleaning of your car, you're going to a car wash. If you want to donate to the school and run over on a Saturday afternoon, that's fine. And you're not going to get the same car wash as you got at the car wash. You're going to have kids having fun. Nothing wrong with that. I support that anytime I see it. I like that. I like supporting causes. And by the way, that's a good idea to find the interested people who love causes. They're your biggest players. So I hope this makes sense to you. Finding your director, finding your pattern of behavior, finding your system. What does it mean? Everybody that's come out of our class for the past 18 years has had the same answer. I didn't know this stuff. I'm so glad that this information is here. I always just winged it. Now I know. So, Mark, I'm going to turn this over to you, and hopefully we get at least one person who says, I get it. Oh, my gosh, I get it. I see why everybody has to basically say the same thing, have to have the same system or the same pattern of behavior to make it work. Why? Because you have to be part of a system whereby recruiting never stops, and that means duplication. That's what it means. And you're only going to duplicate if you have a system in place, a system for language, a system for marketing. The tools, everything has to be part of a system whereby that recruiting never stops. So thanks for listening today. So over to you, bud.
Thanks, Joe. Great job. Again, system, very simple. Save yourself some significant time, energy, and money. Everything has to have a system. Our country is built on system. Businesses are built on system. You have to have a system where recruiting never stops. And one other thing, Joe, that we need to be reminded of is that we're not selling anything. We're not gold peddlers. We're not selling anything, but we are showing people a system for exchanging their paper for real money. That's what we're doing. You don't have to sell anything. Most people don't like to be sold. They don't even want to be bothered. But what we have and what Joe has explained this morning go back in about 15 minutes. You will have from our Webinar Jam system, you will have a recording of this, and I will suggest that everybody go back again. I know I'm going to do it and listen to it. Doesn't matter how many times you hear it, but the more you hear it and the more you make it part of you, the more you can be successful. Why? Because you have a system. I encourage everybody, if you haven't attended the class, you need to get in the class and learn this whole entire system, the class. And if you put it with the tools that we have, you can become successful, and you can have a lot of fun. Yeah, I mean, I'm having a lot of fun getting out in the street and having fun, meeting people and everything. But when I'm out there and I do that, I will tell you this. When I talk to somebody, I'm talking to them just like in the class. You use a class out in public. You just have to remember what the class was about, what it says, and how to say it. Like Joe said earlier, how to say it, how to communicate with people. You can learn to be a great communicator, and if you can communicate the right things to people, they'll want to be a part of your team and they'll want to be a part of your company. So
hey, Mark, let me jump in for a second before we end it. Marianne twice has some questions in here. Let's that's what I see here. What is the approximate cost of voice broadcasting? It depends on the company, Marianne. I don't know whose group you're with. If you want to call me, you can give me a call. On the initial email that I sent out this morning or yesterday is my phone number. Oh, no, it's not on there. Send me an email, jpshoop@earthlink.net. And somebody asked me that last week and said, send me an email, and they never did. They put something in the box with a phone number, and I don't remember what, but normally I respond to the email. That's the best way to get me. Send me an email, jpshoop@earthlink.net. And Marianne, do you have that? Do I need to repeat that? And I can just tell you, everybody has a different company that they use for voice broadcasting. And we'll just talk about, what group. And I'll tell you something now, as far as voice broadcasting and as far as, doing team building and doing power legs, there is a pattern that a lot of people don't teach. Maybe I'll cover that next week. I believe Cheryl Ann's going to be with us, so I wouldn't do it that week. But you really need to understand, if you're going to build and use voice broadcasting, honestly, there is a way to do that with a team of people that you can cut the cost down. And you should do it with people who are directly up or down from you on one side. Let me just put it that way. You have a right and a left leg. If you have 5 people on the right side, get all 5 to participate in that broadcast. Everybody gets the person if you do that. Everybody will get that new person. Every new person you bring in, everybody who's in there gets the person. Everybody gets the volume. So that's important. Now, if you don't understand that, we'll cover that at some other time. But okay, good, Marianne. Yeah. You can just send me an email and we can chat. Are we able to access initial conversation training? That's what Mark's talking about, the class. Send me the email and we can discuss how you can get into that class. But I can tell you this, thousands of people have taken that class over the last 20 years. And I don't think I have one person who came out and said, I didn't learn anything new. Oh my gosh. Some people said, hey, I knew some of this. Other people go, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I thought, what I've been wanting to know all along. I've been taught the wrong things, and you'll see lots of good information in there that most people don't teach you. I don't know if anybody's ever taught all of it, and it's just a compilation of all the education over the past 22 years. So anyway, with that, I hope you have a great day. Thanks for being here, and we will see you. Well, don't forget, there's some educational things during the week. Look at your schedules. Get into some chat rooms and find out what's going on with people. And we're here every Tuesday. It looks like Cheryl Ann, I think, is going to be with us. And then we're also scheduling another ladies' night, which I suggest you come in here and listen to a couple of the people that'll be there. One that will be there is Jennifer Ashby, and I can tell you that Dan was extremely impressed with her, and she's going to do a full-blown half hour for us on leadership. So it's important to get to that one. But with that, I hope you have a great day. Mark, have a fun day today, everybody. And thanks for being here. We will see you next week at the Breakfast Club. Have a great day, everybody.
Peace and blessings, everyone.